Marcus Valen stared at the endless void of space through the cracked viewport of his battered ship. The Wanderer. It had been 3 days since his engine gave out, stranding him on a desolate asteroid in the middle of nowhere. His supplies were running low, and hope was fading fast. He sat slumped in the pilot's chair, staring blankly at the blinking red warning lights on his console. Every beep felt like a countdown to failure. But then something changed. A faint shimmer caught his eye outside the window. At first, Marcus thought it was just another asteroid reflecting sunlight, or maybe exhaustion playing tricks on him. But as he squinted harder, he realized it wasn't an asteroid at all. A sleek, otherworldly vessel descended from the stars, glowing with an iridescent light that seemed almost alive. Its surface shifted colors like oil on water, pulsating gently as if breathing. Marcus froze, unsure whether to feel awe or terror. The ship hovered silently for a moment before landing gracefully on the rocky terrain not far from where the Wanderer lay crippled. Marcus grabbed his emergency kit, a mix of tools and rations, and cautiously stepped out of his ship. The airlock of the alien craft hissed open, and a figure emerged. She stood tall, taller than any human Marcus had ever seen, with smooth, silvery skin that glowed faintly in the dim starlight. Her eyes were large and luminous, framed by intricate patterns etched into her skin that shimmered like constellations. Long, flowing robes draped over her slender frame, shifting colors with every movement. She exuded calmness, yet there was an undeniable aura of power around her. "Human," she said in a melodic voice that resonated deep within Marcus's chest. "You are stranded." Marcus blinked, stunned. Not only did this alien speak perfect English, but she also sounded kind. He swallowed hard and nodded. "Yeah, I'm stuck here. My engine's shot." "Who? What are you?" "I am Zinara," she replied, tilting her head slightly as though studying him. "Of the Lumavin people. We travel the stars seeking knowledge and connection." She paused, her gaze lingering on the wreckage of the Wanderer. "Your ingenuity has kept you alive despite your circumstances. That is rare among your kind." Marcus frowned, unsure how to respond. Was that a compliment, or was she mocking him? Before he could ask, Zinara continued, "I have come to offer you assistance. Your vessel may be beyond repair, but perhaps we can improve it." "Improve it," Marcus echoed, his voice tinged with disbelief. "You mean fix it?" "No," Zinara said, her lips curving into what might have been a smile. "I mean transform it. With our technology, your ship can become more than it was before. Faster, stronger, capable of enduring even the harshest conditions." Marcus's heart raced. This sounded too good to be true. Why would an advanced alien species care about helping some random human stranded in space? "Why would you do that?" he asked bluntly. "What's in it for you?" Zinara tilted her head again, considering his question. "Curiosity," she said simply. "We value those who adapt and survive against odds. You intrigue us, Marcus Valen. Prove yourself worthy, and we will share our gifts with you." Prove himself. Marcus gritted his teeth. He didn't know what she meant by that, but one thing was clear. He didn't have much choice. If he refused, he'd be stuck here forever. And if he accepted, well, it couldn't get worse than this, right? "All right," Marcus said finally, straightening his posture. "Tell me what I need to do." Zinara's glowing eyes softened slightly, and she gestured toward her ship. "Come. Let us begin." As Marcus followed her across the rocky surface, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. For better or worse, he was about to step into the unknown, and nothing would ever be the same again. Inside Zinara's ship, Marcus felt like he had stepped into another dimension. The walls shimmered faintly, shifting between solid surfaces and glowing panels that pulsed with soft, rhythmic light. There were no sharp edges or harsh corners. Everything flowed seamlessly, as if the entire vessel was alive. He reached out to touch one of the walls instinctively, but pulled his hand back when it rippled under his fingertips. "This place is incredible," Marcus murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Zenara stood nearby, watching him with an expression that seemed both curious and amused. "Our ships are grown, not built," she explained. "They adapt to our needs, just as we adapt to the universe." Marcus nodded slowly, trying to process what she meant. Everything about this situation felt surreal, from the alien technology surrounding him to the fact that Zenara herself didn't seem remotely threatening. Still, he couldn't let his guard down completely. This was all too strange, too perfect. What did she really want from him? "As I mentioned earlier," Zenara said, breaking the silence, "we value curiosity and ingenuity. To determine whether you are worthy of our assistance, you must complete a task." "A test?" Marcus asked, raising an eyebrow. "What kind of test?" Zenara gestured toward a small drone hovering nearby. Its metallic frame was scorched and dented, clearly damaged. "Repair this unit using only primitive tools, those you brought with you." Marcus glanced at his emergency kit lying on the floor. It contained basic wrenches, screwdrivers, and some spare parts scavenged from the Wanderer. He looked back at the drone skeptically. "That thing looks pretty messed up. Are you sure these tools will even work?" "They will suffice," Zenara replied calmly. "Your task is not merely to fix the drone, but to demonstrate patience, resourcefulness, and adaptability. These qualities matter more than skill alone." Marcus sighed, realizing there was no point arguing. If this was the price for getting help, he'd pay it. He knelt beside the drone and examined it closely. The damage wasn't as bad as it initially appeared, just a few loose wires and a cracked casing. But working without advanced equipment would be tricky. For the next hour, Marcus focused intently, piecing together fragments of knowledge he'd picked up during years of tinkering with the Wanderer. At times, frustration bubbled over as screws refused to budge or wires slipped out of place. Each time, Zenara remained silent, observing him with quiet intensity. Her presence unnerved him, but it also pushed him to stay calm and keep going. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Marcus tightened the last bolt and powered up the drone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft, whirring sound, its lights flickered to life. The drone hovered steadily in the air, emitting a series of melodic tones. "Well done," Zenara said, her tone approving. "You have shown determination and creativity. Those are traits we admire." Marcus wiped sweat from his brow and exhaled deeply. "So, does this mean I passed?" "You have earned my trust," Zenara confirmed. "Now you may proceed to the next stage. Follow me." She led him deeper into the ship, her movements graceful and unhurried. As they walked, Marcus noticed subtle changes in the environment. The colors shifted slightly, and the air carried a faint, soothing hum. Despite his lingering doubts, he couldn't deny being impressed by everything he saw. "Why go through all this trouble for someone like me?" Marcus asked suddenly, unable to hold back the question any longer. "I'm just a nobody floating around in space." Zenara stopped and turned to face him. Her glowing eyes held a depth that made Marcus feel small yet significant at the same time. "Every life has value, Marcus. Even yours. Perhaps especially yours. You carry within you the potential to learn, grow, and contribute to something greater than yourself. That is why we invest in beings like you." Her words lingered in Marcus's mind as they continued onward. For the first time since meeting her, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this bizarre encounter could lead to something extraordinary. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. His journey was far from over. Zenara led Marcus through a series of winding corridors, each one more mesmerizing than the last. The walls seemed alive, pulsing faintly with light that shifted colors as they walked. Strange symbols etched into the surfaces glowed softly, forming patterns that Marcus couldn't decipher but found oddly comforting. It was as if the ship itself was welcoming him, or perhaps testing him further. "This way," Zenara said, her voice calm and melodic, pulling Marcus's attention back to their destination. She stopped in front of an archway that shimmered like liquid silver. As they stepped closer, the barrier dissolved seamlessly, revealing a vast chamber filled with glowing machinery and hovering platforms. This was the core forge, the heart of the ship where upgrades were designed and implemented. Marcus gazed around in awe. Tools floated midair, moving on their own, as if guided by invisible hands. Streams of data flowed across translucent screens, written in a language he didn't understand. In the center of the room stood what looked like a massive crystalline structure, its surface refracting light into dazzling rainbows. It hummed softly, emitting a vibration that resonated deep within Marcus's chest. "This is where we will begin your transformation," Zenera explained, gesturing toward the crystal. "The forge analyzes and integrates new technologies into existing systems. But be warned, this process requires sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" Marcus asked, his brow furrowing. "What kind of sacrifice?" "All growth comes at a cost," Zenera replied cryptically. "Some upgrades demand raw materials, others energy, or even fragments of personal memory. You must decide what you are willing to give up for progress." Before Marcus could press her for details, a new presence made itself known. A voice unlike anything Marcus had ever heard echoed through the chamber, a harmonious blend of tones that seemed to resonate directly in his mind. "Welcome, Marcus Phelan," it said. "I am Irindor, overseer of the core forge." Marcus turned toward the source of the voice and saw a floating orb hovering near the crystal. Its surface swirled with intricate patterns of light, giving it an almost sentient appearance. Despite its mechanical nature, Irindor exuded warmth and intelligence, making Marcus feel both awed and slightly unnerved. "Your vessel has been scanned," Irindor continued, projecting holographic images of the Wanderer into the air. The visuals showed every crack, dent, and malfunction in stark detail. "It is primitive by our standards. However, with proper integration, it can become something remarkable." Marcus clenched his fists, feeling a mix of pride and embarrassment. His ship might not have been much compared to this alien tech, but it had been his home, and his lifeline, for years. Still, he forced himself to focus on the opportunity before him. "All right," he said firmly. "What do I need to do?" Irindor projected a list of upgrade options, each accompanied by glowing descriptions: speed enhancements, reinforced hulls, advanced navigation systems. The possibilities seemed endless. But beneath each option was a note detailing the required sacrifice. Some demanded rare metals, which Marcus didn't possess. Others required time-consuming recalibrations. And then there were those labeled memory fragment required. "What does that mean?" Marcus asked, pointing to one such entry. "Why would I need to give up memories?" "To integrate certain upgrades, neural pathways must align with the technology," Zenera explained gently. "This process involves extracting small fragments of your past experiences. They will not harm you, but they cannot be recovered once given." Marcus hesitated, staring at the options. Giving up resources or time was one thing, but pieces of himself, that felt deeply unsettling. Yet he reminded himself why he was here. If these upgrades could save him from being stranded again, or worse, they were worth it. "I'll start with something simple," Marcus said finally, choosing an upgrade labeled Hull Reinforcement. It required only basic materials and no memories. "Let's see how this works first." "Wise choice," Zenera said, nodding approvingly. "We shall proceed carefully." As Irindor initiated the process, Marcus watched nervously as tools began dismantling parts of the Wanderer, now suspended in midair thanks to the forge's gravity-defying technology. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and new components materialized out of thin air, fusing seamlessly into place. The sight was mesmerizing and slightly terrifying. When the first phase completed, Marcus approached his ship cautiously. The once ragged exterior now gleamed with reinforced plating, looking stronger and sleeker than ever before. He ran his hand along the surface, marveling at the transformation. "This is just the beginning," Zenara said softly, standing beside him. "But remember, Marcus, true strength lies not in the machine, but in the pilot who wields it." Her words lingered in Marcus's mind as he stared at his upgraded ship. For the first time in days, hope flickered within him like a newly lit flame. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them, one step at a time. The core forge hummed with energy as Marcus stood before the holographic display of the Wanderer, now partially upgraded. The reinforced hull gleamed under the chamber's shifting lights, but the process wasn't finished yet. Erindor projected another set of options onto the screen, each one more advanced and more demanding than the last. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he scanned through them. "Speed enhancement or neural interface?" Zenara asked gently, breaking the silence. "Both are significant improvements, but they serve different purposes." Marcus frowned, weighing the choices carefully. Speed would allow him to outrun danger, giving him an edge in hostile environments. On the other hand, a neural interface would let him control the ship with his thoughts, a level of connection that seemed almost unimaginable. But both required sacrifices he wasn't sure he was ready for. "What does the speed upgrade cost?" Marcus asked, pointing to the first option. "Raw materials," Erindor replied in its harmonious voice. "Specifically, alloys we can synthesize from your current resources. However, this will reduce the durability of certain components temporarily." "And the neural interface?" "A fragment of personal memory," Erindor answered. "A small piece of your past, necessary to align your mind with the system." Marcus hesitated, staring at the glowing descriptions on the screen. Giving up raw materials sounded manageable, but memories? That felt far more intimate, like losing a part of himself forever. He glanced at Zenara, hoping for guidance, but her expression remained neutral, leaving the decision entirely up to him. "I've never had much luck running away," Marcus muttered finally, thinking back to all the times he'd barely escaped trouble. "If I'm going to survive out here, I need to be tougher, not faster." Zenara tilted her head slightly, intrigued by his reasoning. Durability over speed, a practical choice. But Marcus trailed off, glancing at the neural interface again. The idea of controlling his ship with just his thoughts was tempting, almost intoxicating. It represented freedom and power beyond anything he'd ever known. Could he really pass it up? After a long pause, Marcus made his decision. "I'll take the neural interface," he said firmly, meeting Zenara's gaze. "It's risky, but if it works, it'll make me unstoppable." Zenara nodded approvingly. Courage is choosing what matters most, even when fear whispers otherwise. Erindor pulsed brighter, acknowledging the choice. "Prepare yourself, Marcus Phelan. Memory extraction is painless but irreversible." Marcus took a deep breath and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, worn photograph. It was the only memento he had left of his late father, a man who had taught him how to fix engines and face life's challenges head-on. His fingers trembled as he held it tightly for a moment, then placed it on the platform beside him. This is what you can have," Marcus said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "Take it, and use it however you need." Zenara watched silently as Erindor absorbed the photo, converting its essence into data. The image shimmered briefly before fading completely, leaving Marcus feeling strangely hollow. He clenched his fists, reminding himself that this sacrifice was worth it, for survival, for growth, for everything ahead. The neural interface installation began immediately. Floating tools surrounded Marcus, attaching delicate wires to his temples, while others worked on integrating new systems into the Wanderer. The process was surreal. Marcus could feel subtle pulses in his mind, as though the ship itself was whispering to him. When it was done, Marcus stepped back, breathing heavily. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, he felt it, a connection unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Thoughts flowed effortlessly between him and the ship. When he imagined moving forward, The engines roared to life. When he pictured shields activating, they shimmered into existence around him. "It's incredible," Marcus whispered, awestruck. He closed his eyes and focused, feeling every inch of the ship as if it were an extension of his own body. Zenara approached him, her glowing eyes soft with approval. "You have taken a great step today, Marcus. Remember, strength lies not only in technology, but in the resolve to wield it wisely." Marcus nodded, still overwhelmed by the bond he now shared with his ship. As he looked at the Wanderer, now transformed into something extraordinary, he realized the true weight of his decision. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about becoming someone capable of facing whatever the universe threw his way. For better or worse, there was no turning back now. The upgrades to the Wanderer had transformed it into a marvel of technology, but the journey was far from over. As Marcus tested the neural interface, sending commands effortlessly through his thoughts, Arinder's voice echoed softly in the chamber. "Integration complete. However, we must reroute your departure due to unforeseen circumstances." Marcus frowned, stepping away from his ship. "What do you mean? What's wrong?" Zenara moved closer, her expression grave. "A malfunction occurred during the final phase of integration. One of the modules overheated, causing a minor explosion in the core forge. While repairs are underway, our sensors have detected an approaching electromagnetic storm within this sector. We cannot risk launching until it passes." "A storm?" Marcus asked, his stomach sinking. Electromagnetic storms were notorious for wreaking havoc on ships, scrambling systems, and leaving pilots stranded or worse. He glanced at the Wanderer, now gleaming with advanced tech, and felt a pang of doubt. Would these upgrades hold up against such chaos? "We must navigate through the nebula surrounding this asteroid," Zenara explained. "It is dangerous, but unavoidable if we wish to avoid further delays." Marcus nodded slowly, forcing himself to stay calm. "All right, let's get moving then. I trust you know what you're doing." Zenara gave him a small, reassuring smile. "We will face this together." As they prepared to leave, Marcus couldn't shake the tension gripping his chest. The Lumavin ship hummed softly as it ascended into space, its iridescent surface shimmering against the dark void. Moments later, they entered the nebula, a swirling expanse of vibrant colors and crackling energy. Streams of purple and green lightning danced across the horizon, illuminating the ship's interior with eerie flashes. "Stay alert," Zenara warned, her hands hovering over glowing controls. "These storms can disrupt even our systems." At first, the journey seemed manageable. The ship glided smoothly through the turbulent clouds, its adaptive shielding deflecting bursts of electromagnetic energy. But soon, the storm intensified. A massive bolt of lightning struck the vessel, causing alarms to blare and lights to flicker wildly. Marcus gripped the edge of a console, his heart pounding as the entire ship shuddered violently. "Arinder, stabilize the core," Zenara commanded sharply, her calm demeanor cracking under pressure. "I am attempting recalibration," Arinder replied, its melodic voice tinged with urgency. "However, external interference is destabilizing vital systems." Marcus stepped forward instinctively, his mind racing. Despite his limited knowledge of alien tech, he couldn't just stand by while everything fell apart. "Can I help? Tell me what to do." Zenara hesitated for a moment, then gestured toward a panel glowing red. "Activate that sequence. It will divert power to the shields." Without hesitation, Marcus focused, letting his thoughts connect with the ship via the neural interface. For a brief second, he felt overwhelmed by the flood of information surging through his mind. Data streams, system statuses, error codes, but he pushed past the noise, zeroing in on the shield controls. With a mental command, he redirected energy to reinforce the barriers just as another wave of lightning hit. The impact rocked the ship again, but this time, the shields held firm. Zenara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Well done, Marcus. Your quick thinking saved us." Marcus exhaled shakily, his hands trembling slightly. I didn't think I could do that. Guess the upgrades really work. They do, Zinera said, her tone softer now. But remember, no amount of technology replaces courage and teamwork. As the storm began to subside, the ship emerged from the nebula into calmer skies. The relief was palpable, yet Marcus knew their challenges weren't over. This detour had cost them precious time, and tensions between him and Zinera lingered beneath the surface. Still, there was also a newfound respect growing between them, a shared understanding forged through adversity. Looking out at the stars stretching endlessly before them, Marcus whispered to himself, one step closer. Whatever lay ahead, he was determined to keep moving forward. With the electromagnetic storm behind them, the journey through the nebula grew quieter, though the tension in the air remained palpable. Marcus sat in a corner of Zinera's ship, staring at his hands as they rested on his knees. The neural interface still buzzed faintly in his mind, a constant reminder of how much he had sacrificed and gained. He felt stronger now, more connected to the Wanderer than ever before, but the memory of losing his father's photograph lingered like an open wound. Zinera noticed his silence and approached him cautiously. You seem troubled, she said, her melodic voice soft and gentle. Would you like to talk? Marcus hesitated, unsure if he wanted to share his thoughts with someone so different from him. But something about Zinera's presence made it hard to stay closed off. She had saved his life multiple times already, and her calm demeanor invited trust, even across the vast divide of their species. It's just, I gave up something important back there, Marcus admitted finally, his voice low. That photo was all I had left of my dad. It feels strange, knowing it's gone forever. Zinera nodded slowly, her glowing eyes filled with understanding. Sacrifices leave scars, no matter how small, but they also create space for growth. Your father's memory lives within you, Marcus, not in objects, but in who you are. Her words struck a chord deep inside him. For years, Marcus had clung to that photograph as if it were the only thing keeping his father alive in his heart. Now he realized that letting go didn't mean forgetting. It meant carrying those memories forward in a new way. Thanks, Marcus said quietly, offering her a small smile. I guess I needed to hear that. Zinera returned the smile, then gestured toward a nearby platform where cushions floated gently above the floor. Come, sit with me. There is much we can learn from each other during this journey. Curious, Marcus joined her, settling onto one of the floating cushions. As they talked, Zinera shared stories of her own struggles, how she had once doubted her ability to lead diplomatic missions among hostile species, or how she had faced rejection from her own people when proposing bold ideas. Her vulnerability surprised Marcus. He had assumed aliens like her were always confident and composed. In turn, Marcus opened up about his life on Earth, the poverty he'd grown up in, the loss of his father, and his decision to leave everything behind in search of freedom among the stars. He spoke of humanity's flaws, the greed, the fear of outsiders, but also its resilience and creativity. You humans are fascinating, Zinera said thoughtfully after a while. So flawed, yet capable of such beauty. Your media portrays us as either saviors or conquerors, but the truth is far more complex. Yeah, well, humans aren't great at seeing shades of gray, Marcus replied with a wry grin. We tend to simplify things too much. Their conversation stretched on, weaving between laughter and moments of quiet reflection. By the time they paused, hours had passed, and Marcus felt lighter somehow, as though sharing his burdens had eased their weight. As they stood to resume their preparations, Zinera placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. Thank you for trusting me, Marcus. These connections remind me why we explore, to find kinship in unexpected places. Marcus met her gaze, feeling a warmth spread through him despite the cold vastness of space outside. Same here, Zinera. You've shown me that not all aliens are out to destroy us or save us. Some are just people like you. For the first time since meeting her, Marcus truly saw Zenara not as an alien benefactor, but as a friend, and perhaps even something more. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: this bond would stay with him long after their paths diverged. As they walked back to the core forge, the ship hummed softly around them, its walls shimmering with colors that seemed brighter than before. Together, they prepared for the next phase of their journey, united by a newfound understanding that transcended species and worlds. The core forge pulsed with energy as Marcus and Zenara prepared for the last stage of the Wanderer's transformation. This final upgrade was unlike anything they had done before, a neural synchronization module that would allow Marcus to control every aspect of his ship with pinpoint precision. It wasn't just about speed or durability anymore. This was about creating a seamless bond between man and machine. "This is the culmination of your journey," Zenara explained, her voice steady but tinged with gravity. "Once integrated, you will become one with your vessel, but it comes at a significant risk." Marcus nodded, steeling himself. He had already sacrificed so much: his father's photograph, fragments of his past, and he knew there was no turning back now. Still, the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on him. "What happens if something goes wrong?" he asked, glancing at Irinder, who hovered nearby. "The process is delicate," Irinder replied in its harmonious tones. "Failure could sever the connection entirely, or worse, leave you incapacitated. However, success will grant you unparalleled mastery over your ship." Marcus swallowed hard. The stakes were high, but the potential reward was worth it. If he could fully master the Wanderer, he would never be vulnerable again. No asteroid field, no storm, no enemy could stop him. And yet, deep down, he wondered if the cost might be more than physical. "Are you ready?" Zenara asked softly, her glowing eyes searching his face. "As ready as I'll ever be," Marcus replied, exhaling deeply. He stepped onto the platform where the neural interface equipment hummed faintly, wires and sensors suspended in midair like tendrils waiting to attach themselves. Zenara guided him gently into position, ensuring he was comfortable. "Focus on your breathing," she instructed. "Let go of fear, trust yourself, and trust the process." As the procedure began, Marcus felt a surge of electricity ripple through his body. Wires snaked toward him, attaching themselves to his temples and spine with surprising gentleness. His vision blurred momentarily as data flooded his mind. Maps of star systems, schematics of engines, equations governing flight dynamics, all flowing together in a torrent of information. At first, it was overwhelming. Marcus clenched his fists, fighting against the urge to pull away. But then Zenara's voice broke through the chaos. "Breathe, Marcus. Let it flow. You are not resisting the current. You are becoming part of it." Her words anchored him, and slowly he relaxed. The flood of data transformed from confusion into clarity. He could feel the Wanderer around him, not just as a ship, but as an extension of his own self. Its engines thrummed in sync with his heartbeat. Its shields responded to his thoughts like instinctive reflexes. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be connected. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, though time seemed irrelevant in this state. Finally, the hum of the core forge softened, and the wires detached themselves, retreating back into the machinery. Marcus opened his eyes, blinking rapidly as reality came rushing back. His limbs felt heavy, but his mind buzzed with newfound awareness. "How do you feel?" Zenara asked, stepping closer with concern etched across her features. Marcus took a shaky breath, then grinned. "I feel amazing, like I've been given a second chance, to start over, stronger than before." Zenara smiled warmly. "You have earned this, Marcus. Remember, power is meaningless without purpose. Use it wisely." To test the upgrade, Marcus focused his thoughts on activating the Wanderer's engines. Instantly, the ship roared to life outside, its sleek form gleaming under the chamber lights. Every system responded perfectly, as though anticipating his commands before he even gave them. Erindor chimed in approvingly. Synchronization complete. You are now fully integrated with your vessel. Marcus walked to the viewport, gazing at the Wanderer with pride. It was unrecognizable from the battered hunk of metal he'd started with, a masterpiece born from sacrifice and determination. Yet, as he turned to thank Zinara, a pang of sadness hit him. Their time together was almost over. You've given me more than upgrades, Marcus said quietly, meeting her gaze. You've shown me what it means to trust someone, even when they're different from you. Zinara placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. And you have reminded me why we explore, to find those who inspire us to grow. As they stood there, bathed in the soft glow of the core forge, Marcus realized this moment wasn't just about saying goodbye. It was about carrying forward the lessons he learned, and proving that hope could bridge even the widest divides. The time had come for Marcus to leave Zinara's ship. The upgrades to the Wanderer were complete, transforming it into a vessel capable of enduring the harshest corners of the galaxy. Yet, as he prepared to step back aboard his ship, Marcus felt an unexpected heaviness in his chest. This journey with Zinara had been more than just a series of mechanical enhancements. It had changed him in ways he hadn't anticipated. Zinara accompanied him to the airlock, her glowing eyes soft but tinged with sadness. She carried a small crystal in her hand, its surface shimmering faintly with swirling patterns of light. Take this, she said, holding it out to him. It contains knowledge of safe travel routes across the stars. Use it wisely. Marcus accepted the crystal carefully, feeling its warmth against his palm. Thank you, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You already have, Zinara replied gently. Your courage, curiosity, and willingness to grow have honored us. That is all the repayment we seek. They stood there quietly for a moment, neither wanting to break the connection they had forged over the past days. For Marcus, Zinara was no longer just an alien benefactor. She was a friend who had guided him through one of the most transformative experiences of his life. And for Zinara, Marcus represented humanity's potential, a reminder that even flawed beings could rise above their limitations. I won't forget what you've done for me, Marcus said finally, breaking the silence, or what you've taught me about trust and hope. Zinara tilted her head slightly, studying him with an expression that seemed almost human in its warmth. Hope is a fragile thing, Marcus, but also powerful. Carry it with you wherever you go. Perhaps someday you will inspire others as you have inspired me. Her words struck a chord deep within him. Growing up on Earth, Marcus had always felt like an outsider, someone too reckless, too broken to make a difference. But now, standing here among the stars, he realized he had the power to change not only his own path, but maybe even the paths of others. As they stepped onto the landing platform outside Zinara's ship, Marcus turned to face her one last time. Will I ever see you again? He asked hesitantly, afraid of the answer. Zinara smiled softly, though there was a hint of melancholy in her gaze. The universe is vast, Marcus, but our paths may cross once more. Until then, remember this. Exploration is not just about reaching destinations. It's about the connections we make along the way and the lessons we carry forward. With those parting words, Zinara stepped back into her ship, leaving Marcus alone beside the Wanderer. As the Lumovan vessel ascended gracefully into the sky, Marcus watched until it disappeared into the endless expanse of space. A strange mix of emotions swirled inside him. Gratitude, loss, determination, but above all, a renewed sense of purpose. He climbed aboard the Wanderer, settling into the pilot's seat with a newfound confidence. The neural interface hummed softly in his mind, responding instantly to his thoughts. He powered up the engines, feeling the familiar thrum of energy coursing through the ship and through himself. As the Wanderer lifted off the asteroid and soared into the stars, Marcus glanced at the crystal Zinara had given him. Its light pulsed faintly, guiding him toward uncharted territories. He didn't know where his journey would take him next, but for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid of the unknown. Instead, he resolved to honor Zenera's teachings, to use his newfound strength not just for survival, but to help others in need. Out here, among the stars, he might be just one small speck in an infinite universe. But every speck mattered, especially when it carried hope. Looking ahead at the vast cosmos stretching endlessly before him, Marcus whispered softly to himself, "This isn't goodbye, it's just the beginning." With the Wanderer fully upgraded and humming with power, Marcus set a course for the unknown. The crystal Zenera had given him glowed softly on the dashboard, projecting holographic maps of safe routes across the galaxy. Each shimmering line represented possibilities, new worlds to explore, mysteries to uncover, and lives to touch. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt like he wasn't just drifting through space. He was moving forward with purpose. As the ship sailed smoothly through the stars, Marcus marveled at how different everything felt. Before meeting Zenera, the Wanderer had been little more than a patched-up hunk of metal, barely holding together. Now, it was a marvel of technology, responding instantly to his thoughts via the neural interface. But it wasn't just the upgrades that made the difference, it was the confidence they gave him. He no longer saw himself as a lost wanderer. He was a pilot capable of facing whatever challenges lay ahead. His journey quickly became an adventure. In one system, he stumbled upon remnants of an ancient civilization, an abandoned orbital station filled with artifacts and cryptic messages etched into its walls. Though much of it was indecipherable, Marcus carefully documented what he could, hoping someone else might piece together the story these relics told. It reminded him of Zenera's words about exploration being about connections, not just destinations. In another encounter, Marcus came across a stranded trader whose ship had been damaged by pirates. Despite initial suspicion from the trader, a grizzled human named Rhea, Marcus offered assistance without hesitation. Using tools and knowledge gained during his time with Zenera, he repaired her engine and even shared some of his supplies. Grateful but wary, Rhea warned him about dangerous factions operating nearby, but also expressed admiration for his kindness. "You're not like most pilots out here," she said gruffly as they parted ways. "Most would have left me to rot, or worse, taken advantage. Don't lose that." Her words stayed with Marcus long after their paths diverged. He realized that every interaction mattered, whether it was helping someone in need or simply showing compassion. Out here, among the stars, humanity wasn't defined by borders or governments. It was shaped by individuals making choices that echoed across the void. Over time, Marcus began to build a reputation. Travelers spoke of a lone pilot flying a sleek, iridescent ship who always seemed willing to lend a hand. Some called him the Lumivin's gift, inspired by the name Zenera had whispered before their farewell. Others referred to him as the Connector, believing his presence somehow bridged divides between species and strangers. Yet, despite his growing legend, Marcus remained humble. He knew none of this would have been possible without Zenera's guidance and the sacrifices he'd made along the way. Every so often, when the silence of space grew too heavy, he found himself thinking about her. What was she doing now? Had she continued her diplomatic missions? Did she ever think of him? One night, while gazing at the swirling colors of a distant nebula, Marcus made a promise to himself. If he ever saw Zenera again, he would thank her, not just for saving him, but for showing him the kind of person he could become. Until then, he vowed to honor her legacy by spreading hope wherever he went. As the Wanderer sailed deeper into uncharted territory, Marcus leaned back in the pilot's seat, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often unforgiving, but it was also full of wonder, and he was ready to embrace it all. For Marcus Valen, the journey was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. Years passed, and Marcus Valen became more than just a name whispered among travelers. He became a legend. Tales of his exploits spread across the galaxy, carried by those who had encountered him or heard stories secondhand. Some spoke of how he'd helped stranded ships in the darkest corners of space. Others recounted moments when his quick thinking and compassion saved lives during tense encounters between rival factions. But what truly set Marcus apart wasn't his upgraded ship or even his skill as a pilot. It was the way he carried himself with kindness and humility, bridging divides where others saw only conflict. His reputation reached far beyond human territories, earning him respect among alien species as well. Many considered him proof that humanity could rise above its flaws, that it wasn't defined solely by greed or fear, but also by hope and resilience. Even Zanera's people, the Lumovan, began to take notice. Diplomatic records noted Marcus's efforts to foster understanding between species, often citing him as an example of successful interspecies cooperation. One day, while navigating through a remote star system, Marcus received an unexpected transmission. The voice on the other end was melodic, familiar, and sent chills down his spine. "Marcus Valen," it said softly. "It has been a long time." "Zanara." Marcus gasped, his heart racing. He hadn't dared to dream of hearing her voice again. "Is that really you?" "It is," she replied, her tone warm yet tinged with amusement. "I am here on a diplomatic mission nearby. I thought it fitting to see if our paths might cross once more." Without hesitation, Marcus altered course, eager to reunite with the being who had changed his life so profoundly. When the Wanderer docked alongside Zanera's sleek vessel, Marcus stepped out, feeling both excitement and nervousness. Would she recognize him? Had too much time passed for their bond to remain intact? But as Zanera emerged from her ship, her glowing eyes meeting his, all doubts melted away. She smiled, a gesture as radiant as the stars themselves, and extended a hand. "You have done well, Marcus. Your actions speak louder than any words ever could." Marcus shook his head, humbled. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You showed me what it means to connect, to trust, to grow. And now you carry that lesson forward," Zanera said, her expression softening. "You have become a beacon of light in a universe often shrouded in darkness. That is your legacy." Their reunion was brief but meaningful. They shared stories of their journeys since parting ways, how Zanera continued advocating for unity among species, and how Marcus had dedicated himself to helping others navigate the challenges of space. Though neither voiced it aloud, there was an unspoken understanding between them. Their bond transcended time and distance. As they prepared to part ways once more, Zanera placed a small object in Marcus's hand, a tiny crystal identical to the one she had given him years ago. "Keep this," she said gently. "Let it remind you that we are never truly alone. Our connections endure, even across the stars." Tears welled in Marcus's eyes as he nodded, clutching the crystal tightly. "Thank you, Zanera, for everything." With a final smile, Zanera returned to her ship, leaving Marcus to gaze at the stars. As the Wanderer soared back into the void, Marcus felt a profound sense of purpose. His journey wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about leaving behind something worthwhile. Whether through acts of kindness, diplomacy, or simply inspiring others, he knew he was making a difference. And so, Marcus continued onward, guided not only by the upgrades to his ship, but by the lessons etched into his heart. Out among the endless expanse of stars, he remained a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest speck of light can illuminate the darkest corners of the universe. For Marcus Valen, the adventure had only just begun.